Welcome.
Happy Friday, everybody. This is Crypto Live with Bitcoin Bravado. I'm the Bitcoin Broski here today with BTC Jack Sparrow, Kyle, and Bitcoin Birch. What's up, fellas? Nice chain, Birch.
Yeah, for all my podcast homies, you can't see I'm wearing that Biggie chain today. That Bitcoin Biggie chain. What you boys think? You like this? Should I wear this in public? Should I wear this in public?
Yeah,
rock it, man.
Next time I go out, I'm gonna need that, Joe.
All right, I'm gonna lend it to you.
Biggie will dig it for sure.
Biggie,
So we got
BTC.
So we are in the midst of a shakedown in the market right now. People are getting absolutely bloody over here. How's everyone faring?
I'm faring just fine. I shorted the shit out of Bitcoin yesterday. Come on.
Yeah,
a couple days ago.
We caught a nasty short on Bitcoin at 6,500. You guys heard us on the podcast and live stream talking a lot about Bitcoin Cash long, which got decimated, lost about 15% on that long, but we had a super sick hedge, and we took some really nice profit on that. How'd you guys fare?
All right, I got stopped out of a long, which was not too bad. It was pretty tight stop loss, and I'm not really too bothered because we're still within range. You know, we got rejected by 6K, so until we see a real breakdown there, I'm gonna start worrying and sell off a lot of spot positions I have. So I'm doing fine.
Fortunately,
yeah, this is looking like a good place to long again if you missed the first run up to 6,600, but we'll talk about that later. So
I was just all in on Raven, so I'm doing damn good right now.
The shitcoin special. How'd you call the Binance listing, broski?
CZ and I we text, so not really. But that'd be great. So CZ, if you're listening, feel free. Shoot me a message.
Yeah, nice grab. Actually, I will say that yesterday there was pretty much two coins that were green in the top 100, and it was Raven and Cash. And Cash was up like 4%. So shout out to Kyle for the Cash grab, and then Raven getting listed on Binance the day after the shitcoin special. In addition to our Bitcoin short, we actually came out positive on the Dumpski. So that's how you play this game. Good job, boys.
That's it.
Thank you.
So jumping into
what led to this massive sell-off?
Well, I think there are some theories, but apparently there was some BTC moving around, and I don't know, Joel, you want to take that away and talk a little bit about 22,000 Bitcoin moving just before a big red candle.
About an hour before that nasty candle that started to float around on Twitter, especially from some larger accounts, that 22,000 Bitcoin, quote, moved. What does that mean? What do you think?
Could be a OTC deal. Could be someone moving, Bitcoin to scare people because this guy's around and people don't really do their research. So it could be to frighten people into a sell-off. It could be just a random guy moving money from one place to the other. But I've heard you did some research on the subject, so I'm really curious to hear what you found.
Yeah, it's actually not that hard. See, the beautiful thing about this world, this blockchain world, is that everything's on the public ledger, right? And so as soon as I start to see something like that, like 22,000 Bitcoin whale getting ready to dump, and then it dumps, right? And the market goes crazy and people are like, he's sold in, yada yada. Guys, it's really not that complicated. 22,000 Bitcoin moved from one unknown wallet to another. So I spent some time and I tracked that 22,000 Bitcoin back to the beginning of time. And let me tell you, the gentleman or lady that runs or owns this particular wallet is very wealthy, as you might imagine. But I actually tracked this stack of Bitcoin all the way back to its first wallet in May 2010. Ladies and gentlemen, this exact same stack of Bitcoin used to be a stack of 35,000 BTC. This person moves a chunk of 20 to 25,000 Bitcoin every couple of months. Had nothing to do with the market dumping, had nothing to do with them trying to sell it. They haven't sold it. It's still sitting in that same wallet. And, if I had 22,000 Bitcoin, I have a few less than that. If I had 22,000 Bitcoin sitting in a wallet, I would move it every couple of months as well. You know, like what? Of course you do. Now the crazy thing is, so again, tracking it back to 2010, I'm not sure if you guys know, but the price of Bitcoin in 2010, around the time that this Bitcoin popped up, 8 cents. 8 cents. That was a modest $3,000 bag that this person hodled to a, small, the guy's down to his last $130 million. Okay. So, the guy's down to his last $130 million, still sitting on it. And I'd move it every couple of months as well. So don't look too much into the headline. Anytime you hear about a massive move of tons and tons of Bitcoin, look it up yourself. Follow that Bitcoin around and see where it's going or what it's doing. This person's been hodling Bitcoin for a long, long time and doesn't look to be selling anytime soon. So.
God, I would just pray that next move is to my wallet. You know what I mean? I'll send in my address.
The thing that's crazy though, I don't know about you guys. I move crypto quite a lot, and a lot of times I move them between offline wallets. Let's say I'm trying to move one Bitcoin. I'll break that shit up into like 14 transactions of like 0.05 each. This dude moved 22K in one transaction. It's good. You know how many times that I double check the private key and the address, like just 22K in one fell swoop. So the guy knows what he's doing, or the girl knows what she's doing, and more power to him. 130 million. Good shit.
It's such
That's
a
not
scary
bad for $3,000. Oh my god.
Imagine like one freaking number that you accidentally deleted at the end of the new address.
And then, oh my god.
That actually doesn't matter though.
True. But what if you would have replaced it with something else?
That's scary.
That's scary.
Yeah. No thanks. The too high stress of a situation. Did we want to talk a little bit about the uncorrelated Dow dump that we've seen also? Kyle, did you want to throw in some thoughts on the traditional market and how it also shit the bed?
Yeah, so traditional markets, the Dow is down like 1,400. I mean, I think it rallied a little bit this morning, but it's down like 1,400 points over the course of the past 48 hours. A lot of people speculate on why that's occurring and if it's correlated with crypto. I think our consensus is that it's not so much correlated with crypto, but it more so crypto is not so much correlated with traditional markets, but more so correlated with the Fed raising their rates. So what they did is they raised interest rates on the debt that they are owed. What a lot of people don't know is that the Federal Reserve is owed a tremendous amount of money on an international scale from very important people. So when the Fed raises their rates, that basically makes debt more expensive to hold for anyone around the world, large manufacturers, large banks, governments. So that scares these large institutions or companies. So they have to pull their investments from other areas, like the stock market, as you can see, is a very visible representation of that. And they have to pull their money out because the Fed is now making their debt more expensive to continue to hold. So some people say, oh, it's not a big deal when the Fed raises their rates. No, it's a very big deal. Like, they're the largest lender on planet Earth. If they are making people pay back their debt quicker, then obviously you're going to see repercussions in other traditional asset classes, other investments as well. So always pay attention to that. If you're trading other markets, if you see the Fed raising their rates, you should probably sell or short, honestly. It's very clear.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we hear a lot on crypto Twitter is, hey, the market's dumping. Finally, all these institutional investors are going to come over to crypto. They're going to come hedge their bets in crypto. No, they're not. No, nobody who matters in the traditional market is saying, "Oh man, the Dow's down 1,400 points. You know what I should do? I should buy some Bitcoin. I should definitely hedge into the most volatile asset on earth that I can get my hands on, and I should definitely buy some Bitcoin at these prices." That's not the case, guys. So when you see the Dow dump, it's probably a good idea to hedge kind of like we did and look at that and say, you know what? This might actually trickle down to crypto, and we might see it's not going to be a pump now. Like all of a sudden, all these people aren't going to come over and start market buying crypto, FOMOing into crypto. So, just leave that shit at the door. It's really not as complicated as people sound. There's people trying to make it seem.
I mean, and there is really nothing to say for it so far because, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as an asset class it's an emerging market, and people are constantly trying to find correlations between stock, bonds, cryptocurrency, et cetera, et cetera. But until, this space matures more, we will be able to maybe make predictions based on that. But this space is so young and so illiquid, it does not really, yet impact the world economy. So anyone speculating on the fact that Bitcoin will go up if there is a major global crisis, yes, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But if people who own Bitcoin are losing a lot of money because they need to pay debts or whatever, they will sell their Bitcoin as well. So I don't think.
There you
go. No, I agree with you guys. I think right now, I mean, the drop that we just saw in traditional markets, we saw the same percentage drop in March too. So this hasn't really been something overly exceptional. It has been, scary, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. I don't want to, take that away. But what I will say is that I think that if we saw a recession like we saw in 2008, 2009, or something in that caliber or range, then we might see people exploring other asset classes, trying to figure out what the true reason behind some of these huge recessions are. And I think that is when crypto could step in and be like, hey, we are a unmanipulated, uncontrolled new system of finance that doesn't just allow anyone to go print off more of a currency if they need to pay debts or pay for something to be done. So I think this asset class could step in, but this dip is not the one that's going to do that. So it needs to be harsher.
Well, just to move us on to some more crypto news, I want to make sure that we get to some of these news stories that we've got. There's been some big developments over the past 24 hours, really. First and foremost, BitHum, number 6 largest cryptocurrency exchange, was just had a minority stake acquired for $354 million by a Singaporean medical group headed by Dr. Gunn. So, gents,
it was actually 51%. A majority stake. Yeah, it was a majority stake.
Yes.
The guy bought 50% plus one share for, what was it, 356 million?
For 354 mil.
354 mil. So that puts a total val on BitHum of right around $700 million. So that's pretty impressive for an exchange. They are the 6th largest. Now BitHum was hacked in June for $40 million, right? So they haven't been without their issues. That's for sure. But what I find most interesting about this particular story is that who the hell is this plastic surgeon in Korea? Which apparently I learned that plastic surgery in Korea is more popular per capita than it is anywhere else in the world. So the guy does well. He's in the right market. If you're a plastic surgeon, go to South Korea, because apparently a lot of people get plastic surgery in South Korea. But damn,
what kind of plastic surgery, Joel?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Kyle. As it turns out, the most popular form of plastic surgery in South Korea is plastic surgery on one's eyelids, believe it or not. So take that for what it is. So this guy's doing a lot of eyelid surgeries, enough to spend $350 million. What does this mean?
Well, according to this report, he's looking forward to making something that is big enough to compete with Binance and Coinbase. So his thoughts are to build out and create a platform that's similar to Binance, looking to eventually grow it to compete with Coinbase. So we'll see if he's able to actually materialize the things that he's got planned.
Yeah, only 35 cryptos traded on BitHum, or 36 cryptos. So the first thing that I'm going to do is find this gentleman's email and ask him what bags he's holding, because that's going to tell us which coins are coming to BitHum in the short time. So that way we can try to get in front of a couple of BitHum listing pumps. What do you guys think?
I think that would be great. I also wonder, did he get a really good deal? Because what was Coinbase valued at? If they
$8 billion,
$8 billion, right? So
yeah, and they're 16th by volume.
Yeah,
okay.
So what's your thought on that? Did this guy get like a huge discount, or is Coinbase overvalued?
Without taking a look at the books, I have no idea, but it doesn't sound like it was it doesn't sound like it was the most diligent deal of all time. It sounds like one rich homie in South Korea knew another rich homie, and he hit him up and he was like, "Hey, I got like 350 million. I'll throw it to you. Give me like 50% of BitHum, list a couple of my bags, and let's see where it goes." I mean, that's really, it's hard to say without looking at the specs of the deal. BitHum is probably doing okay. From one of the reports I read, it showed that they, in the first half of 2018, turned like 35 million in profit. So that's a little over a 10x multiple that the guy paid on earnings. Actually, it's a 20x multiple on total valuation. So that is a bit steep, but it is also a cryptocurrency tech company, and tech companies are, one of the ones I've done the best on in my career, which is Grubhub. At one point was valued at 32 times revenue, so on the public market. So, it sounds like it's probably a slightly overvalued deal, but with the hype around crypto and with the fact that a lot of the assets that he acquired by way of their wallets are at yearly lows and are down 80%, he probably got a pretty fair shake.
Yeah, and BitHum's had a bad year. I mean, it hasn't been a great year. I know Kyle pointed that out earlier. So this could have been a situation where he had some leverage coming into this deal. So even if it was slightly undervalued, he had some chips to bring to negotiate with. So yeah. It'll be interesting to see what he does with this new platform that he now has control of. But moving on to another old favorite, Tether is in the news yet again. So, Ronnie, I'm going to pass it over to you for our weekly dose of some Tether FUD. Do you want to share some news on this $100 million movement of Tether and the premium that there is between exchanges at the moment?
Yeah, so there's a few things going on, and honestly, I won't jump to any conclusions, but over the past couple of days on Bitfinex, we have seen a so-called premium, and a premium is when an asset trades for a higher price than anywhere else. Normally, between exchanges, you will see arbitrage. Arbitrage is when you have an asset on exchange A that trades for a higher price, a so-called premium, and then you buy it there and you transfer it to another exchange and then you make profit on it. Or the other way around, you buy where it's cheap and you sell it for where it's more expensive, and you continue doing that, which levels out the prices. At first, I thought it was only Bitfinex, because Bitfinex has been having issues with their bank, Noble Bank, and then they announced they were switching to HSBC. And by switching to HSBC, we thought the problems may be over. But then I think a couple of days ago, they announced that yet again, deposits and withdrawals of fiat money were paused for a little moment, which made me obviously understand or think or have a theory on why Bitfinex was trading at a premium. Because if you can't take your money out, you might want to sell your Tether, which is the USD on Bitfinex, and then move the Bitcoin to another exchange or fiat gateway, and then exit if you need your cash. But it then came to me, quite frankly, that pretty much every exchange that uses a USDT pair was trading at a premium. And when compared to any exchange that is trading versus actual USD, so an exchange that tells you they own USD and store that in a bank somewhere, we're not trading against the premium. So let me share this little spreadsheet I found somewhere. Here we go. So here you can see that Bitfinex is definitely trading at the highest premium possible, and then all the exchanges here, the yellow one,
premium, so 1.7% premium on Bitfinex.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially for Bitcoin. We see larger spreads than that on some altcoins. There was a time, I think, that it was me, you, Kyle, a couple others. What was it?
Litecoin.
The Litecoin arbitrage. What was the premium on that? It was like,
oh man, it was like 10. It was like
10%. We were just buying all the Litecoin we could, transferring it and selling it, and we did it for like 3 hours and just crushed. So we've seen high premiums in crypto and high spreads, but 1.7%, especially on that large of a volume exchange, is is big. So what you're saying, Ronnie, is that you think that people are selling their tether for Bitcoin, which is causing the premium on the exchange, transferring that Bitcoin, then selling the Bitcoin for true USD, for instance.
For example, that could be the case.
Yeah.
It could also be that exchanges are involved as well, or that it's only exchanges doing this. It's a guess, but it's, you must agree that it's strange that USDT pairs are trading for a premium, which makes me think that people want to get rid of their USDT and want to get their hands on something they actually value more.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean there's an
Ronnie,
underlying issue with Tether, right? Like, we don't want to be the guys creating the Tether FUD, but it was a week ago where we said, if you don't have to hold your assets in Tether, maybe you don't, just because of everything that's been going on, and there are more options for stable coins. So that, I think that what you're saying is spot on, Ronnie. I definitely think that I think that that's what we're seeing happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rush and sell all your Tether today. But if you have a better option, you might want to use it. What are you going to say, Kyle?
Ronnie, have you tried sending Bitcoin to Bitfinex recently, like in the past couple of days?
No.
I'm just wondering if they're still accepting deposits at the same rate, or if they're struggling to bring in new Bitcoin.
Well, you know what?
Reason.
I'll send a little bit of Bitcoin to Bitfinex, and I'll check it out. I'll report on that later. Another thing
that's usually why arbitrage gaps form. Is because the liquidity from outside deposits and withdrawals. But
but there's no arbitrage between USDT versus USDT. So there's only arbitrage between USD and USD, and you can't really transfer your USDT out for real USD. So, but the other thing that happened is that the Bitfinex USDT wallet transferred 110 million of Tether out of their wallet. So I'm curious what happened with that. But they had 259 million in their wallet, and it's reduced to 143 right now. So yeah, well, we'll have to keep an eye on what's happening there, and it makes me feel not entirely sure whether there's going to be something happening that will cause the market to panic, whether that's going to be a reason or not.
Crypto's a level-headed market. We don't really panic. That's not how we FOMO, that kind of stuff. That doesn't occur here. But moving on to another cool story. Gary Cohn has joined a blockchain startup as an advisor. So former chief economic aide to President Donald Orangeman Trump, Gary Cohn has joined Spring Labs. So what do you guys think of this, man? This is a person who had direct contact with the president on his staff. Now, maybe not the right way to phrase that, huh? But now joining Spring Labs. Yes, he was on the president's staff. Yeah, that's exactly how I said it.
Did you see Kanye? Did you see Kanye in the Oval Office yesterday? Kanye's girl Kim K. She's a Bitcoin gal, and so is his brother-in-law Scott Disick. So he's Mr. Calabasas Bitcoin. So DT is about to be the catalyst for the bull market. DT is about to come out and about to trump everyone.
Pump it.
Bitcoin. Come pump our bags, Donald.
Let's go, bro. We get to tax advantages. That's all we're looking for. Just give us the same tax breaks that you get when you do something.
Yeah, I think we're continuing to see more important rich people, politicians, whatever, get more exposure to crypto. It's just another day of bullish news that probably won't make a difference in the short term, but I don't mind seeing that.
And apparently Spring Labs does have an office in Chicago, so maybe there's the ability to drop by and get a meeting, see what they're all about. But do you guys have anything to say or add on this news here?
It just seems like it's been 9 months of every day. Obviously the price action hasn't been what we want it to be, but we see very important people leaving very prominent roles to join this industry in this space. So maybe like Gary Cohn joining this group isn't going to pump Bitcoin a couple $100, but I just find comfort knowing that day after day after day, I just see more and more people joining this space and figuring out how they can be exposed to this asset class. So long term, this is nothing but bullish for the space to continue to see people that are very successful form their careers around the future of blockchain. So despite the fact that he left Trump's, he left as Trump's chief economic aide, he obviously sees more prosperity in this marketplace than he did staying on his staff. So.
Well, and I mean, you think about it, these people can go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So if you leave President Trump's team, you can take any job and anyone would be happy to have you and pay you a premium. So for him to go to a blockchain company that's really on a ground level looking to help build it, that says a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot about his belief in the space. It's not like he's going to Coinbase and taking a position. He's starting on the ground level because he sees potential for the future. So I think it's
and
bullish.
You know how many people in this country, companies would have liked to say, yeah, we took Gary Cohn from Donald Trump. You know how people are hitting his line. So
yeah. And I mean, usually not for nothing, but usually people in this position that take an advisory role, it's as a lobbyist. So I think the bigger picture that this speaks to is reform on the Hill, because no one's really going to hire Gary Cohn to do any dev work, right? They're going to hire him to leverage his contacts to see if he can bend the right ears and push the right policies through. So I think this is a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head right there. I was just going to say that this is a PR plus leverage of network always, and it's good, I think, because there's people he knows that can make things turn around. And if I don't know, did you look at Nouriel Rubini or whatever his name is yesterday?
I can't. He blocked me. Shout out,
he
Nouriel.
didn't block me yet.
Thanks for the block, homie.
Everybody follow Nouriel and just troll him.
You know why he blocked me is because he was talking about how crypto is this, that, and the other, a bunch of scams. And I just asked him quite simply what his favorite consensus algorithm was. I said, listen, you are going to be speaking on behalf of the blockchain industry. The least I need to know before I can put my trust in that is what your favorite consensus algorithm is. And I got the block hammer. I also said some other things, and maybe that was, I don't know. But yeah, he's pretty salty. And Nouriel, F that dude. I hope you're listening to the podcast, homie. Hey, real quick though, for those just tuning in, I don't like to. I want to. We're a little over the halfway point, so before I forget, for those just tuning in, once again, thank you so much for being here on the live stream and the podcast. We're just wrapping up news right now, and then we're going to hop into altcoin analysis on the total market cap, Bitcoin analysis and trade setup, and also take a look at a couple of alts. So stay tuned for that.
Yes. And just rounding out the news, really, we've got some Coinbase news and some back news kind of tied together. First and foremost, Coinbase is closing their index. Gentlemen, what does this tell you about the market?
No, it doesn't tell me anything about the market necessarily. But for those who don't know, Coinbase a couple months back, we're talking about an index fund. They were excited to say that, hey, for institutional investors, you can come in, you can give us a little bit of money or a lot of money or whatever the case may be, and we're going to spread that out across these different assets. The reason that they closed that out was because, and they announced yesterday, was because they just didn't have the interest that they thought they would have. Now, in addition to that, Adam White, the guy who was leading that up, which we'll get to in a second, he was the one leading that particular initiative, and he left to go join Bakkt, which we'll get into. But, it doesn't surprise me that there wasn't huge institutional interest for Coinbase's index fund, but they're not just getting rid of it. What they're doing is essentially pivoting and rebranding that into a retail product. And honestly, that's where Coinbase thrives. Like, Coinbase didn't blow up because 100,000 people 100,000 bankers and institutional investors a day were downloading their app. Coinbase blew up because 100,000 people, regular Joe Schmoes like us, were downloading Coinbase to buy crypto. And so I think they're just doing a better job, hopefully, of staying in their lane. It doesn't mean that institutional investors aren't interested in crypto. It means that institutional investors don't necessarily think that just putting all their money in 5 assets is the best move. And I would tend to agree with that. What they are building now is a Coinbase bundle feature. And with Coinbase bundle, it's going to allow a retail investor to say, here's $100 and then diversify that across the 4, 5, 6 assets listed on Coinbase today, which by this time next year will be over 100 assets. It's a really, I think, a user-friendly way to give retail investors a little bit more spread across crypto and more easily structure a portfolio. So I don't necessarily think it's bad news for for the market at all. I think it's actually just exciting that there's a new retail product coming out for Coinbase, which I think will attract more retail investors.
Yeah. And kind of speaking on what you were saying, Joel, there, it's like that index fund, I'm not sure how good of a product it actually was. Like from an optics perspective, you could only really invest in the Coinbase coins. So it's like how many funds out there were really only trying to have exposure to the 5 coins that are on Coinbase or whatever. It's like, no, like they probably realize that if they're going to get into this space, then they're going to want to invest more than just ZRX, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. Like that's what I would at least want if I was an institutional investor. Otherwise, you really have no knowledge of this depth of the space if you're only going to invest in 5 cryptos. So
yeah. So taking it from there, Adam White, right? He's the 5th employee from Coinbase. And he joins the ranks of a few other Coinbase employees who have now jumped over to Backed as their COO. For those who don't know what Backed is, I don't know. I don't think it stands for anything, right? I think they just made that name up, right? We decided. But Backed is underneath ICE, which is the Intercontinental Exchange. ICE owns the NYSE, ladies and gentlemen. That's the New York Stock Exchange and other global trading markets. So ICE has created Backed to bring digital assets to the world the way that it brings stocks to the world via the New York Stock Exchange. They're also famously partnered and supported early by Microsoft and Starbucks. So what does this mean that another Coinbase early employee, Adam Backed, is joining Backed? What does that mean for you guys?
Well, Adam White he was the one who built on the institutional exchange GDAX, which was the back-end exchange for a long time for Coinbase. It's where institutional investors and all the back-end trading was done on the Coinbase platform. So it makes sense that Backed is bringing in a guy like Adam White, who's had so much success in building exchanges in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there couldn't be a more fitting person for the role. Obviously, the knowledge that he gained in Coinbase by managing what he was managing and having that crypto understanding and now coming over to Backed, I think he's going to be able to package things in a way that will be very attractive to more institutional money. Just Backed in general. Go ahead.
You know why Backed is called Backed?
No, we were just talking about that.
Is it Dutch?
Yeah. It's called Backed because it's backed by physical Bitcoin.
So they just a cool way to spell it. So it's spelled with 2 Ks to BAKKT. Here's the cool thing about it. Obviously, the NYSE and these traditional financial conglomerates are run by a bunch of old suits. A bunch of people who might not have a good understanding of cryptocurrency to begin with. They just want access to the digital. They just want exposure to that digital asset. So by bringing on people like Adam White, who are in their own right OGs in the crypto space, I'm not, it's pretty. At least it shows that these guys are saying, hey, listen, like we're going to bring in the people who really know this the best, who have taken companies, startups like Coinbase, turn them into $8 billion companies, and we're going to have their backing. And so that shows that they're not necessarily trying to hedge out the crypto guys. They're actually trying to kind of join forces with the most powerful people in the space today and say, how do we build the best product, to get out there? Because ultimately, ICE guys, they want to make money, right? That's why they're doing this. They're not doing it for any reason other than to make more money. And and that means that they're bullish on crypto long term, and that's good for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, one more thing about Backed, but I just mentioned that they will start with future trading like CBOE and CME both offer, but the difference with CME and CBOE will be that those products, those derivatives, those futures will be backed by physical Bitcoin. So whereas with CME and CBOE, you buy a contract that is settled in cash. In this case, you will settle in Bitcoin. So if there is any interest in the products that Backed will deliver, there will be more interest for Bitcoin, which eventually, hopefully, may increase price. And people are talking about ETFs. I think this is the closest we'll get to an ETF before an ETF gets approved. I think they're launching in November. So that's
November, yeah. There's no date for future.
It's not far.
And I trade at the CBOE at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Actually, it's for those of you on the live stream, it's It's right there, right down there. That's the building. That's where me and Kyle work out of a lot of the time. And one of the things I actually like about it, though, is that it settles in cash. And so when we're actually trading for Bravado Capital, which is our fund, the investors like the fact that we settle every night in cash, and it takes some of our risk out of Bitcoin. So it's a new product. It's super exciting. It's very bullish, and I'm looking forward to seeing how November plays out. Let's talk about some shitcoins, though.
Yes, let's get into that. Before we do, one thing I want to do is I want to give Frank Chaparro over at The Block a shout out, because he has been doing some serious deep dives and getting some great scoops, and a lot of the news that a lot of us are reading about, FinTech Frank is putting out there. So keep doing your thing, man. But getting into some shitcoins, we've got a little bit of a recap because we've been doing all right with some of the calls that we've
talked
made.
about some shitcoins.
Yes. So why don't we talk a little bit about CMT? How's that looking?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. So Cyber Miles is one that we talked about a few times on the show. I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick so we can take a quick peek at this puppy. So Cyber Miles is a coin that we are excited about primarily from an FA perspective because of their mainnet launch, which is coming up on the 14th of October, which is Monday. So where we left off, Cyber Miles was sitting right around 1900 sat, right on this strong support, which was one of our first profit targets, because we originally entered the trade down here around 1500 sat is where we originally entered the trade. And then we bought the dip and entered again at 1660. That was where it was when we talked last time. Then we saw a massive market sell-off. And as a result, this is actually what happened. For those of you on the live stream, you can watch this play out. Sell-off come right down to our second entry. And then we saw a dump down to our first entry again, and then a pump all the way back up to our previous profit target, and then a retracement. So what we're looking at here is our previous entries of 1500 sat and 1650 sat held up a second time. If you still had bids down in that area, it was a really easy profit grab. Now with mainnet coming on Monday, with weekends bringing fairly low volume, and from a volume perspective, this playing out as a perfect head and shoulders scenario for those of you on the live stream. You can see the volume here on the left shoulder and on the right shoulder. This is a retracement. I wouldn't buy it here. I'm looking for another retracement back down to that 1530 sat level. We'll see how that holds up. We'll see what mainnet launch does. You know, I made my money on this trade. It's not one that I'm fundamentally bullish on long term. It was literally just a trade for us. So I'm done with CMT. We didn't hit our top profit target there, but we did well in the trade. And I'll wait to see how this does, and then I'll take another look at it in a couple, maybe next week or something. But if I'm in the trade currently, I'm taking profits here. If I'm not in the trade, I'm staying out as we kind of wait out this head and shoulders here. So that's kind of my opinion on all of that.
So I know we've got a couple of other shitcoin setups we wanted to discuss, because some things are looking juicy after that blood. Some things are set to bounce. So, Ronnie, what are you looking at right now?
Well, obviously after the ZRX listing on Coinbase and that news going around, there's a lot of people speculating on the fact of all those other ones that were mentioned by Coinbase for a listing. So we could be looking at, I don't know, like XLM, ADA, OMG, Basic Attention Coin. They're all coins that they're tied to a potential Coinbase listing. So
yeah, the four are BAT, XLM, ADA, and Zcash, in addition to ZRX. So the original 5 Coinbase coins that were supposed to come: ZRX, BAT, Stellar Lumens, which is XLM, Cardano, which is ADA, and Zcash. So Ronnie, which one do you think out of those, if you had to pick one of the 4 now to take an entry on, what do you like the best?
It's difficult to say, but I really love the looks of XLM here. And let me pull up a chart. So what I'm looking at for XLM is Stellar Lumens, is the fact that we have this downtrend that comes all the way down here. This is a daily chart. What I'm looking at is the breakout of this downtrend. We got out and then we retested the breakout level right here. The beautiful thing about XLM right now is that there is this particular daily candle, which preceded this pump, where we saw a lot of volume, is where there was a giant shift in supply and demand. Usually what you see is the order block that surrounds such a level is where market makers will retest whether there's still enough demand, and it comes back, and then it will bounce from there. So what I'm looking at is XLM touching this little dotted line at 3,300 satoshis. It did not reach it, but it did touch the downtrend. The thing about this downtrend is it's a bit subjective where you draw it. So there is a good chance that we'll still dip down to like 3,300 satoshis, and it will very much depend on what Bitcoin is going to do. But if Stellar Lumens gets listed, it will do very well. So getting a bag of Stellar Lumens around like 3,000 to 3,400 satoshis is not a bad move in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't want it here because it's got the lowest volume it's seen since. I mean, look at that. Is that just like market makers dropping off? If you're looking at the chart, we've had completely steady volume since June, and now it's just gone this month. And the last time we saw that was back in May. No, like what happened there? That looks like that looks like market making just dropping off.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that. In general, for me, it kind of, when volume drops, it kind of feels as if price is lying. So in a long-term perspective, you probably will see a reversal. But short-term, if volume drops, price gets very sensitive to, like if there is no buyers, market makers, whatever, price can move very easily. But we had low volume on this sell-off. So, if they come back, it could go flying really, really, really fast. So I agree with you there.
Cool.
Well, and I know that
is Stellar for the Coinbase coins right now. The best looking setup is Stellar. We're already in a BAT setup too. So, we're big fans of Basic Attention Token. As a matter of fact, Bravado Capital has exposure to all of the ZRX, BAT, Zcash, and Stellar. The only one we don't have exposure to is Cardano ADA, for those of you listening and care to know. So we can talk about why a different day. What do we got for OMG?
OMG. Oh my God.
I shielded this one pretty hard on the shitcoin episode. So
yes.
Yeah. Not a lot of movement. But what I really, 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 really like is that the risk reward becomes beautiful here. A technique I use a lot and I like a lot for trading is order blocks. I do it a lot with Don, and Don is a huge fan of it as well. And basically, to remain bullish, you always visit a supply demand zone, and this is the middle of our demand zone we're in right now, and it kind of corresponds to the level right here. What that means is that we have a giant upside, and if we break down, we know that we're going to fall a lot lower. So our risk reward in terms of the potential gains we can make versus where we actually exit the trade, which is really below here, is gigantic. And from a fundamental perspective, I really like this coin. Right now, it's sitting at 48,000.8 K satoshis, which I would probably start buying. I haven't yet, but I'm going to start buying a bag here at spot. And then if it dips to like 47, 46, I will still buy. Maybe 45, but I'll exit below 43K satoshis.
Yeah. Yeah, that's no man's land down there, especially trading against Bitcoin. The USD chart for OMG is one that I like to evaluate because it is a higher volume coin. So I'm not a big fan for these higher volume coins at charting against Bitcoin if I don't have to, because your entire chart can get blown to shit if Bitcoin does whatever it wants to do. So looking at the USD chart, you can see on OMG that we're at a very key support level as well. But the downside's a little bit more scary. So it just keeps you honest when you're making these trades. OMG is a bag that I'm very interested in buying spot. I'm going to probably take the same trade that we shared in the portfolio section of our Discord. at bravadovip.com. But just keep that in mind when you're trading these larger volume alts to evaluate the USD value. See what the true value is for these things.
And just to round things out, I mean, Kyle, did you have anything you wanted to add to OMG before we get into Bitcoin?
For OMG, I like it. I think that right now this is actually a good time to accumulate alts. Like I said earlier, I'm interested in looking for a long. OMG is definitely one that I like to have in my portfolio. So I think it's one that I might run with here
nice
too.
Falling wedge there too that we're drawing. So for those on the podcast, OMG on the USD chart is from a technical perspective, it looks pretty hot here. Where's that order block at USD wise?
The blue order block is pretty far down below the current order block, where we should, if I actually right here. So this is our area of interest based off previous support. I'll draw it out completely, but this is probably where we're looking at. So that's in between $3.5, which we're below right now, and the bottom of that is at $2.74. Probably all the way down to, I would be interested in buying it all the way down to like 2.5. I'm not really sure.
It's just crazy hearing those USD prices, man. Like I can remember when OG was like $25. Like what happened?
That's why the risk reward is so beautiful. And as I shilled to you guys on our last episode on Wednesday, so make sure to go watch or listen to that episode on Wednesday if you haven't. I talked a lot about Omize, the parent, having at least $45 million in war chest capital. To bring people to their decentralized exchange that they're going to be using, and to continue to use OMG as payment rails for the Omize payment solution in Southeast Asia, clients like McDonald's and others that process $30 billion a year in transactions. So a lot of fundamentally reasons to be bullish on Omize Go as well. But it's not going to outpace the market in the short term. So keep that in mind. And in the interest of time, to wrap it up in the next 5 minutes, we should take a look at ALTcoin, the total ALTcoin market cap, and then a Bitcoin trade setup. Anything else you want to add, Broski?
Nope. Let's jump into the altcoin market cap.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen here for those of you on the live stream, so we can take a quick look at what the altcoin market is looking like right now. Funny enough, when we were sitting at around $103 billion altcoin market cap, we talked about there being more downside. And the reason that we thought there could be more downside was really because of this inverse head and shoulders that we've been trying to pay some attention to. So for those of you watching here, back in August, the middle of August, we saw the altcoin market cap slide down to about 85 billion. Came back up to about 110, slid back down to 80, came back up to 110. And then we thought, hey, it might slide back down to that left shoulder, that range of that left shoulder at around 80 to $90 billion. That's exactly what we've seen happen. And so because an inverse head and shoulders is extremely bullish. Now, I do want to point out the volume profile. First of all, we're TAing an entire market cap here. So that it comes with a grain of salt to begin with. Like that's only going to be so valuable. The volume profile on this potential head and shoulders is also not really great. It's really not that accurate for head and shoulders, but it is something to look at. And I like this area, this $90 billion market cap area that we slid down to as a reversal point. That was really our target that we were looking at for the market to turn around. So if over the course of the next couple of days, we can get a nice bounce here on the altcoin market cap and we can start to break back above $100 billion, it's probably a time to enter all crypto markets, in my opinion, because if we do break back above $100 billion in the short term, I really think that's going to validate this inverse head and shoulders. And we could see the bottom like that. This could be the bottom of the total. This could be where it all reverses. There's a lot of people who are making a lot of convincing arguments for the bottom to be in already. I know we have our perma bears out there. I know we got our 3K Bitcoin bears out there. I just don't see the altcoin market cap sliding below $70 billion. It would just require such disgusting capitulation that I think we've already seen. So from an altcoin market cap perspective, I'm a lot more bullish than I am bearish. Maybe we have a couple of red days this weekend, but for the most part, I think that we're going to continue to trend back up to $110 billion for alts, which means take your pick. Go find some of the most wrecked alts that you like fundamentally, load a few bags up, in my non-financial advice opinion, and then sell them as we reapproach this previous resistance at 110 billion, because most of these alts are going to continue to move together. You know, we're not going to see them move independently. That makes coins like Stellar and OMG way more attractive to me, is the fact that it coincides with the altcoin market cap potentially reversing here.
Absolutely. So while we've got a few minutes left here, why don't we jump into to our Bitcoin analysis? I know there's a trade setup we wanted to discuss. BTC Jack Sparrow, take it away, buddy.
All right. I'm just gonna have a little quick look on the higher time frames first. We dumped into this demand block right here between 6 and 6.2 K USD, and for now we're bouncing. We've been bouncing off this level a lot of times, and I'm gonna share a little secret with you. This is a proprietary trading indicator I have. The blue lines indicate a buy. It sells here, buys here, buys here. If the price can actually, you know, once it drops down below the current level, there's going to be a blue arrow here as well. These blue arrows, they're showing up on a lot of time frames at the moment. This is why I am currently looking for a long. If we break down below 6K, I will be out of it. So I mean, let me see if I can find, yeah, here we go. So blue arrows on the weekly. There is one on the daily here. Look how perfect it traded it. So I'm going to follow my gut on that proprietary signal. And when we zoom in on the 4-hour chart, it becomes really difficult to actually exactly know where to enter, but we're gonna have a spot entry, and then we're gonna fill on the equilibrium on this order block and the equilibrium on this order block. So we're talking about $6,210 as first entry, $6,172 as a second entry, and then a third entry all the way down to $6,126 down here. And we're gonna if you're keen, you could add another entry here, but personally, I'm going to be having a stop loss just below $6,075. And my initial target will be 6,360, 6,420, and $6,513 for this trade.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And I agree with the stop there too, because if we come from this bounce, I mean, we had a savage bounce. What was the bottom on that wick?
The bottom on that wick was $6,005.
Yeah, and that's on BitMEX. I think on some exchanges we actually saw it come sub 6K. Mm-hmm. If we're not able to hold here and we even begin to reapproach 6K, I think that's the 6K that breaks the camel's back. I think that's where we see 5,500. So I do like along here as well, though, for all of those reasons. I think that yesterday's sell-off was just another sell-off into the larger range. Kyle, do you have any thoughts on this setup?
Yeah, just one thing I'd like to add is past couple months, I've been living on the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin, and I'm looking at the perpetual inverse swap contract BitMEX chart currently. But on the 4-hour, every time RSI has touched 30 in the past 45 days, we've seen at least a $200 rally in the price of Bitcoin. And that's where we're sitting currently. So I really like Bitcoin for a long here. And a $200 rally is going to at least bring you, I don't know what that is. That might be 3 to 4% gains. And if you use any sort of leverage, you can just hit the multiplier. So.
Yeah, what kind of leverage are we looking at for this particular setup? I'll probably go 6 to 10x. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking 6x is probably where I top out here.
Okay.
Yeah, personally, I'm on a 10x, but
So potential 35 to 50% trade, depending on your average take profit, if the trade validates and is correct. So on a 10x leverage play, so that's a really nice day for anybody. A real nice couple of days. I like that setup as well. We shorted Bitcoin at 65. Why not long it from 62? Wish I could have caught a long closer to 6, but all the exchanges stopped working. So, as is to be expected. But that's why you have your low bids, guys. As just a general, thought. If you thought that Bitcoin might dump to 6K, but you weren't ready to short, just set your buy orders in at 6K and then capture some easy profit on the bounce. It's never a bad move.
That's right. Well, guys, is there anything else that you guys would like to add before we peace out for the weekend?
I think we've kept these kind of people long enough. What was that, Colin?
There you go.
That was not financial advice from any of us.
Well, on that non-financial advice, I think we should wrap it up. It's been awesome getting to chat with you guys today. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to enjoy it with us. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate your continued support and patronage. And until next week, Monday, 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, Crypto Live is out for the weekend. Take care, guys.
Peace.
See you, everybody.